Let's go ahead and get started. So again, if you have joined, you are here for the Southwest Study Group. We're going to talk about 356 University Avenue. I am Rashida Williamson. I am your Community Engagement Manager for the Atlanta Beltline Incorporated, or ABI, which is the organization responsible for implementing the vision of the Beltline. So we do have several members of the ABI team on the call with you tonight. And so we just want you to know that Atlanta Beltline is committed to creating a culture within the organization that values and advances equity and inclusion. So part of that means representation of our 45 plus Beltline neighborhoods on staff, and those staff members participating with you tonight represent those various disciplines across ABI's organization. And we're here to support you with an experience of a presentation, Q&A, and of course, that Facebook Live. So let's go on to the next slide so we can talk about what our discussion will be for tonight. Again, we're going to focus on the developing of a plan for Atlanta Beltline's 356 University Avenue site, and it's just going to reflect that community input to establish an equitable and inclusive engagement process that creates trust and transparency. So now I'm just going to provide an overview of the meeting format for tonight. So currently at this moment in time, in Zoom attendee count, we have 14 people participating, but we also are broadcasting live to Facebook. So if you're watching on the Zoom platform or Facebook Lives as an attendee, please note that you are participating and you'll be able to ask any Q&A when it's time for that portion. But also we want to let you know that your line is going to be on mute until it is time when you use that raise your hand feature later on. Now, just to let you know, during this time frame, again, you are on mute and your phone is turned off at this moment in time. I just need to repeat that just one more time. But again, you can ask those questions and comments during that Q&A session at this moment in time. So if you are experiencing any technical difficulties during this meeting, I'm going to ask that you please email us at engage@atlbeltline.org. And should we encounter any technical difficulties, we're going to appreciate your patience as we sort those things out. So of course, before we jump into our project updates, we always like to get that sense of a virtual room. So we're just going to ask you all a few polling questions. And again, as we start the poll, you should see the question pop up on your screen. And this feature is not available if you have called in or are viewing in a browser online, but I will read those results to the group. So our first question, what neighborhood do you live in? Now, I see our attendee count did increase. So I'm going to ask for full participation tonight, just so we can know where we're representing from. And the poll question has popped up. Now, if you are a phone attendee, you aren't able to see some of these questions, but of course, I am going to read the results to the room. So let's go ahead and end that poll and share the results. Currently, in this moment in time, I have 5 that could possibly be representing Capitol View Manor, Peoplestown, or Pittsburgh. Also, I have 1 that could be representing Chosewood Park, Inglewood Manor, or South Atlanta, and then 1 from either Grant Park or Ormwood Park. We do have a few on the line that are in a Beltline neighborhood that's not within the city of Atlanta on this list. We do have 1 person that is in a neighborhood in the city of Atlanta that is not on this list, but also someone that is in a neighborhood that's not in the city of Atlanta. So let's go ahead to that second polling question. How long have you lived in your neighborhood? And we just want to know, was it 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, or 11 or more years? And if you are viewing on Facebook Live, of course, you can always participate in the comment section. We always love to see that as well. Just getting that sense of the virtual room. Okay. Let's go ahead and end that poll and share the results. All right, we have 7 for 1 to 5 years, 4, 6 to 10 years, and 5, 11 or more years. Our next polling question, what is your relationship to the Atlanta Beltline? So this is going to be a multiple choice question. We just want to know, do you use the trail? Are you a homeowner in a Beltline neighborhood? I would assume if you've been in those neighborhoods for that long. Of course, do you rent a home in a Beltline neighborhood? Again, are you a residential landlord, a business owner in a Beltline neighborhood, a commercial landlord, a developer, a real estate broker, a community activist or advocate, or you're just generally interested in the Beltline project? And again, this is multiple choice, so we want to know what all genres relate to you. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and end that poll so I can share the results with the group. We have 14 in here that use the trail. We have 7 who are homeowners in a Beltline neighborhood, 6 who rent a home in a Beltline neighborhood. We do have 1 residential landlord. We have 4 business owners. We do have a developer that's in a Beltline neighborhood, a real estate broker in a Beltline neighborhood, and then of course 10 that are just generally interested in the Beltline project. So then our next polling question we're going to ask, what are you most likely to be doing on the trail? And this one is multiple choice as well. This is again just some data collection. We want to know, are you using it for exercising or other recreation, or just to run errands, or to get to work, to school? I'm going to relaunch that poll one more time. There we go. It's a good participation. Okay, let's share those results with the group. Okay, you have 16 that use it for exercising or other recreation, 4 that run errands, 3 that use it to get to work, to school. That they use this
think we have some technical difficulties. Rashida's having some issues with her Zoom dashboard. So we are going to double check. So it says here that poll question 5, we have 5 of you saying yes, this is your first Beltline meeting. Welcome. Then we have, let's see, let's end that poll. 13 of you, this is not your first meeting with us, and welcome back. And share those results. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next portion of our program.
And Ebony, I am back. But if you want to continue on with our Beltline 101, you can more than do so.
I will gladly pass it back to you.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
So thank you. I do apologize. And that's why we say if we are experiencing any technical difficulties, you always have a staff member there to help you. So, of course, we're going to go into our Beltline 101 before we jump into those updates. So first, we're going to start off with that vision statement. And it is to be the catalyst for making Atlanta a global beacon for equitable, inclusive, and sustainable city life. So part of that means our efforts with working with MARTA and implementing that 22 miles of light rail transit, our goals of 1,300 acres of new green space, 33 miles of multi-use trails, 5,600 units of affordable workforce housing, $10 billion in economic development, 48,000 in construction jobs, 50,000 in permanent jobs, public art, environmental cleanup, and what we're doing tonight, which is community engagement. So let's talk about the intention and purpose of tonight. So of course, it is just to establish that equitable community engagement process that creates that trust and transparency. So our purpose, again, is just going to develop that plan for ABI's 356 University site to reflect community input gathered through a series of public meetings and, of course, stakeholder advisory committee meetings. And we've had 4 thus far. All right. Let's go and jump into the next slide just to talk about our agenda. So we'll start off first with our hydrology study and then a recap of the engagement we have done to date, but also some updates on planning and those next steps. So you will be getting some few presentations from a few of our consultants that we have, but right now I'm going to turn things over to Chelsea Arkin, our Senior Manager of Housing Policy and Development.
Thanks so much, Rashida. Thanks to everyone for taking the time to be with us tonight. My name is Chelsea Arkin, and I'm the Senior Manager of Housing Policy and Development at ABI. So we are trying to make these meetings as substantive as possible. So like Rashida said, we have our civil engineer here to present some work that they're doing around a hydrology study. We heard a lot of feedback about flooding in this area, especially around McDaniel Street. So we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence there and sharing information with you. I'm also going to give a recap of our community engagement to date, and then we'll hand it over to TSW, our planning partner, to give an update on our current site plan. And we want to make sure that we're getting everyone's feedback on this. And I really want this to be as conversational as possible. And so we'll have plenty of time for feedback at the end of this presentation. So the slide that you're looking at right now, this is our grounding slide. I'm sure most of you have seen this. This is the site. This is about our 14 acres, and we'd like this to be a job anchor for the neighborhood and a hub for entrepreneurs. That was the feedback that we've gotten throughout this entire process, and that was also the feedback that was received when the adjacent NIA building was being developed. We know that housing will have to be a major component of the site. We purchased the site from Annie Casey in the summer of 2023, and we are really focused on creating public benefits for the site. It's currently zoned I-1, but we just submitted an application for rezoning to the city to rezone it as IMIX. Next slide. So now I'm going to give you a little update on the engagement that we've done to date. So I really am trying to make sure that we are being as transparent as possible throughout this entire process and ensuring the public is involved in this entire process as well. So this is our 4th engagement with y'all. So our larger public meetings. We've also had 4 meetings with our stakeholder committee, as well as numerous meetings with our business engagement group, which is led by my coworker, Natalie Jones. We've also been to many neighborhood association meetings and kept Councilmember Member Lewis advised as well. As we go into the rezoning of the site, we'll be attending a lot of those neighborhood meetings again. So we are definitely going to see you out and about in the next couple of weeks. Next slide. So I want to go over our approach to planning and development as ABI. So just to reiterate, we really are not trying to just put pretty pictures on a page. We really want to create a plan that can work and actually be implemented. So we are evaluating the market conditions to determine what is feasible given the current market conditions. We are looking at land use. We are really focusing on community engagement. Like I said, that's a huge part of this. And as we go through the planning process, we want to make sure that we are determining what public incentives are needed to advance the project, and then also what public benefits are desired by the community and by the neighbors. So as we begin to develop these sites, we are also working to evaluate how ABI will be participating in this process. So this could be working on some of the horizontal development, like the development of road infrastructure, stormwater management, and other things. And all of this work ultimately is guiding us to the solicitation of RFPs for the site. And so once we are finished with our entitlement process and once the site is rezoned, then we will release an RFP right away. Next slide. So now I'm going to give you a recap of our community engagement and what we've heard from the community thus far. So this is from all of the stakeholder meetings that we've had, all of our larger public meetings that we've had, as well as our business engagement focus groups. Next slide. And so this is what we've heard to date. So I have this broken down to kind of from a land use perspective and then from a programming perspective. And so from land use and programming, this could all be part of the RFP that we put together for the site. So we know that it is crucial that we have connectivity to the existing street grid as well as internal connectivity at the site. We know that there is a large desire for food access and grocery at this site. We know that we want to have space for retail businesses, space for business services like office space. We know that we want to have light industrial space, and that is required as part of the IMIX zoning for the site. We definitely want to have space for housing, and we want to make sure that there's enough parking to accommodate both businesses on site as well as the housing. In terms of programming, we're thinking about different kinds of food access, whether that's like a big box grocery store, a farmer's market, a neighborhood market. We also know that we want to create opportunities for third-party spaces and entertainment on site so people are not having to drive so far away to get those. We also know that there is a need for healthcare and wellness spaces. In terms of housing, which we know will be a large component of this site, we're evaluating whether there will be homeownership opportunities, whether there could be housing geared towards seniors. We know that there will definitely be rental housing, both market and affordable. We're also really focused on creating intentional green spaces on the site. Our planning partner, TSW, will talk a little bit more about that during their part of the presentation. And then we also know that there are there's a lot of need for workforce training opportunities, specifically programming for youth. So next, I'm going to hand it over to Kara Lively, who's our Director of Economic Development, and she's going to give you guys a brief update. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Chelsea. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for your time. I just wanted to let you know our team has been working hard under our commercial affordability efforts to expand our Beltline Marketplace program as part of the Pittsburgh Yards Container Courtyard Initiative. So we have been working, as you can see in this picture, to place 3 containers at the site. They are being finished up this week and next week. And so we're really working towards getting those individual businesses, a barbershop, Ideal Barbershop, Carrot Dogs, Gope, the Creamy Spot, and Coffin Pies are the entrepreneurs that have been selected and curated for this. If you don't know, our Beltline Marketplace program has an open call for entrepreneurs to participate. And so again, we're happy to keep you updated for any future calls. And the program works as a small business incubator where those businesses can tap into technical assistance, business coaches, and other resources throughout the course of the program. So again, we're getting really excited about those entrepreneurs getting up and going at the Pittsburgh Yards Container Courtyard. We will be doing some activities on March 8th in partnership with the Pittsburgh Community Market. So I hope you'll come join us for those programs and future second Saturday events throughout the year. We also wanted to, I know we've had discussions on these calls specifically related to the site about our smart cities and digital access program. So we just wanted to provide a brief update. We are looking at how we can leverage technology on the Beltline, the Atlanta Beltline, to support better access for Beltline users to information and even food and health access. How we can really think about leveraging technology to address the digital divide. And so we have spent the past year and a half focus groups and with stakeholders really thinking through what are some of those community needs that technology on the Beltline could address and really work to create economic opportunity for local communities. And so we are going to be piloting a few of the technologies that we're considering for the Beltline at 2 locations. One is under Freedom Parkway with our Freedom Parkway Beltline Marketplace. And then the other location will be at the back of the Pittsburgh Yard site, really at the Beltline Gateway entrance. And I think many of you have heard we're looking at some innovative technologies, including potential technologies that could address food deserts like Nourish and Bloom. So again, we'll keep you guys updated. We'd love to have you come out once those sites are up to give further feedback about the technologies that are featured there and just your feedback and consideration as we roll out additional technologies around the Beltline. So again, we do have a business breakfast. If you're a Beltline business and you would like to attend our business breakfast, it's next Thursday morning, and we have a lot of other events coming up that we'd love to engage with you. So please reach out to our business solutions office. Natalie Jones and Gabby Gordon and our team are always here to help support entrepreneurs and help you on your journey. So thank you again, Chelsea and Rashida.
Thank you, Kara. We appreciate that update. And now I'm just going to welcome Councilmember Lewis. He's just coming just to say a welcome to you all.
And Rashida, thank you, and Cara, thank you so much for this presentation tonight and for thinking about the South Side and caring for the South Side. Today is a continuation in the building of the South Side of the city of Atlanta, from our Central to Pryor Street bike lanes that will lead to University Ave repavements, to the future sidewalk installations on University Avenue, to the accelerated completion of the Atlanta Beltline South Side Trail. Today, we're talking about the purchase of 13.7 acres of land by the Atlanta Beltline, also known as 356 University Avenue, and I'm extremely encouraged and inspired by this project. It's a huge reason why we're putting a huge dent in the live, play, work on the south side of the city. My dream for this plan are Punch City market sized with an opportunity to add fitness and more like you. I was excited for the earlier presentation, and I'm excited for what you're hearing tonight. So thank you, Clyde. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Bryson, Rashida, Brittany Brewster, and all the good folks over at Atlanta Beltline Incorporated for thinking about the South Side and making us a priority. My quote for today and forever surrounding the Beltline is about making it to where it works for all of us. So thank you for building the South Side and making it work for all of us.
Thank you for joining. We appreciate that, Councilmember Lewis.
No problem. Thank you.
And now we're going to go ahead and jump to the next slide. I do want to introduce one of our consultants, Jameson Seacrest. He'll be talking about our hydrology study.
Thank you, Rashida. Hi, everyone. I'm Jameson Seacrest from Redstone Group, and I will be giving a quick presentation for this proposed development and surrounding areas. Next slide. To give a bit of background information on our two companies, Planners and Engineers Collaborative has been around since 1964 and is locally owned and operated in Peachtree Corners, Georgia. They can provide civil engineering, surveying, and landscape architecture services throughout the metro Atlanta region. Redstone Group is a 100% woman-owned consulting and design firm based in Buckhead. Planners and Engineers Collaborative has partnered with Redstone Group on this project, where Redstone Group will provide 30% of the services. Next slide. We can do one more. Perfect. So the scope of work for this project is preliminary engineering for the site to confirm that the site is feasible from an engineering perspective. Survey information has been collected and completed, and a hydrology study is being prepared to analyze the existing flooding issues on McDaniel Street and University Avenue. Next slide. Our initial stormwater observations include that existing City of Atlanta inlets along McDaniel Street are clogged with trash and debris. Additionally, several City of Atlanta great inlets have been paved over, which has reduced the capacity of the inlets. Throughout the Pittsburgh neighborhood, there are not enough inlets to manage the amount of stormwater runoff, and there are even several low points missing inlets completely, which is leading to ponding water. McDaniel Street inlets are also at a low point for the 604-acre drainage basin. Next page. Here you can see that drainage basin showing the massive amount of area draining towards the Pittsburgh Yard site, where the McDaniel Street inlets are a low point. Next slide. Here's some photos from a site visit to McDaniel Street showing the trash and debris clogging the inlets in those middle two photos. And the photos on each end showing how the paving has covered the inlets and reduced the capacity. Next slide. This slide contains photos from the site visit to University Avenue, which shows similar issues to McDaniel Street inlets, where they are filled with trash and debris. Next slide. And here are photos from the project site, where a significant portion of the site contains an abandoned asphalt parking lot. And you can see that some of the inlets on this site have also been paved over. as shown on that bottom left photo. Next slide. So our initial recommendations are to reset the inlets along McDaniel Street to uncover the paved over grade inlets. Then create a trash removal and street cleaning schedule to keep them from filling up, and ensure that there's a reduction in stormwater flows from the project site following development. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to refine and finalize this model, complete follow-up site visits, and prepare a draft report with our findings. Next slide. This hydrology report will provide recommendations to the Atlanta Beltline, ensuring that the proposed development will reduce stormwater flows. Recommendations will also be made to the Annie Casey Foundation and the City of Atlanta on proposed improvements to mitigate the existing issues. Next slide. And that's all I have for you. If there are any questions or concerns, we have the information on those previous slides. Thank you.
All right, great, Jameson, thank you. So now we are going to turn it over to Gia Lee from TSW, and she's going to give an update on our latest plans for the site.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gia Lee with TSW. I am an urban planner and designer, and I'm here to give you an update of the latest redevelopment plan. Next page. This is actually where we started as a concept framework plan. The general idea is to extend the existing street network of the city by creating 4 blocks, where you can see we extended Coleman Street into the site and Hubbard Street into the site. We also created another driveway or new street to the west side of the site. A parallel street is created in the site as a center serving street for the 4 blocks. And the idea, because we are seeking IMIX zoning, there are minimum amount of light industrial uses required, and that is also the goal for providing jobs for this area. So we are intended for block 1 to have mostly the light industrial uses, and potentially part of block 2 will accommodate some light industrial uses on the ground floor. But most of the block 2 through 4 would be multi-story residential uses above ground floor retail or office use. And as a terminus of Coleman Street and as well as connection to the Beltline, we're creating a plaza separating block 3 and 4. Next slide, please. And this is a concept plan we ended up with. As you can see, it pretty much stayed the same as the framework plan. We're keeping the 4 blocks. You may have noticed that block number has changed. This is because we're taking into consideration of phasing, where block number 1 is more likely to be developed as the first phase, and block 4 would be the last phase for the development. And because we have this advantage of being adjacent to the Beltline. So the major idea is to create a series of open space on the site, whereas the main entrance of Coleman Street entering into the site, we have a stormwater park on one side with light industrial back to the stormwater park. And on the other side, it would be mixed use with ground floor retail or offices. And the plaza is leading into the Beltline, where it provides pedestrian and potential bicycle access to the Beltline. And that would be mostly the public space as well as along with the streetscape. Within each block, residential mixed-use block, there are semi-public spaces mostly serving the residential uses in each block. Those are the internal courtyards. Block 2 and block 1 with adjacency to the Beltline, they will have direct access to the Beltline. And next page, please. Overall, this plan will create a commercial development of about 55,000 square feet, which will accommodate likely a small grocery store, retail, restaurant, and services. And we also have some jewel box retail standalone on the main street, which will help to create a more vibrant like urban spaces here. The light industrial use, as mentioned, mostly in Block 4 and Block 3, totaling about 180,000 square feet. The development will generate about 518 residential units. They are mostly likely to be 4 to 5-story above ground floor retail. Open space, which include the stormwater park, the plaza leading to the Beltline, and the courtyards, they are totaling about 8.5 acres. We also taking into consideration of podium parking underneath the buildings, which has a total a little over 1,100 spaces, serving both residential and non-residential uses. Next slides. We also created some site sections to help understand how the site and the plan works with adjacent neighborhood as well as the existing topography. As you can see, this section is cutting through Block 1 and 3, where Block 1 has a direct face onto the Beltline. On the other side is facing the internal street. Because of the topography differences, the retail will be adjusted to serve both the Beltline as well as the internal street. And there will be 2 levels of podium parking on the site. The residential uses will be 3 to 4 stories above the ground floor retail, where when you are looking from the Beltline, both the Beltline and the street you see here, they are 4 stories tall. But if you're standing on the internal plaza leading to the Beltline, some of the building are 5 stories tall. And the block adjacent to the University Avenue have only 1 level of podium parking serving the block. Ground floor would be light industrial uses, and the upper floors would be residential uses. Next slide, please. And this is another section cutting through Block 2 and 4. Block 2 is very similar to Block 1, where it has active retail uses facing the Beltline and also retail uses facing the internal street, and where you cannot see facing the internal plaza between Block 1 and 2, they will also be retail uses. And Block 4 is the mostly concentrated light industrial use block. We're aiming for some type of office or research uses potentially in the future. It will be 3.5 stories tall with 1 level of podium parking on the ground. Next slide. And we have created some renderings to help view how the development will interact with the surrounding neighborhood at the Beltline. This is an aerial view looking from the northeast side of the site. As you can see, most of the buildings are 4 to 5 stories tall, including the ground floor non-residential uses. Coleman Street leading down into the Beltline, where you can see the stormwater park and part of the plaza leading to the Beltline. Next one. This is view from north, basically looking down Coleman Street towards the Beltline. You can see some details of the stormwater park as well as the streetscapes serving the mixed-use development with the plaza leading to the Beltline in the background. Next one. Next slide, please. This is a view of street level where basically you're standing at the intersection of Coleman Street and the internal street parallel to University Avenue, looking east. Next slide, please. The last view is from basically on top of the Beltline looking from the southeast. Again, you see how the 4 blocks kind of extended the existing city grades and connecting to the Beltline. Thank you. And that's all about the concept plans.
Thank you so much, Gia. Rashida, are you able to do the polling or?
Yes, I am. Whenever you're
Okay,
ready.
great. Just gonna turn it over to Rashida to get a feel for how you get some of your reactions to what you think of the plan that you just saw, and then we can talk a little bit about
Yes.
it.
But again, this is just letting us know, do you really like it? Do you not like it? What's necessary to help us? And on my end, just to let you all know again, if I'm having that technical difficulties, I see that it's launched, but I can't find it on my end. So, Ebony, if you don't mind, can you stop the polling and share the polling? Yeah, I have all my team members trying to help me out. We do apologize for this technical difficulty. Chelsea, I'm going to make you a co-host. See if you can just go into the polls and you'll see it labeled.
Um,
If not, this is what we're going to do.
would it say poll 1? What does it say?
It's going to say 356 if you scroll all the way down. Question number 1, and you'll hit launch.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Did that work?
No, it did not. Okay, so at this moment in time, I have disabled the chat. So if you are on Zoom online right now currently, you could just let us know, do you like it, not like it? Please just only let us know these answers that we're seeing in the chat. You could type it in the chat. Yep, you can give us numbers as well. We just really want to know. And then again, if you have questions, of course, save that into our Q&A time because they will be dismissed. I'm going to state that right now. They will be dismissed, but you'll have that chance to copy and paste it. But we want to know, do you really like it or not like it? All right. Let's go on to the next slide then. Because we see them running in. So now is your chance to type in the chat as well. Is there anything else that we should consider? Everything that you've been hearing, all the engagement that we've done thus far. Is there anything else that you think we should consider? Sandy, we do apologize about these technical difficulties. We truly do. We do feel as if it is the platform. We're hearing it from external sources as well. On our end, we do apologize for that. Okay. Okay, we have some people stating that we're missing a banking institution. Somebody stated that they would like to see full-size trees planted on the streets. Is there any more or anything else? If you have questions, please go ahead and copy that in the Q&A box. We won't be answering the questions that are in the chat, just so we can take them by order. Okay, somebody says, I see that there is parking, but I'm hoping that there will be some effort to prevent folks from parking in residential areas. Someone else said, I would appreciate some bike infrastructure, especially proper bike racks, prioritizing pedestrians over cars. Someone stated a community garden and artwork. Another person says the Second Street concerns with university. That was from Maggie. Maggie, if you don't mind, can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by that? Someone stated that we're missing a dog park. Yes, this presentation will be made available to you all within 48 hours on our website. And there's also a recording of this right now currently on Facebook. So we will have that posted as well. Okay. Oh, seconding someone else's comment. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. They can see that there's going to be increased car traffic at university. Someone said proper balance between engaging Beltline frontage and University Avenue frontage. All right. So at this moment in time, let's go to our next slide.
All right, so I'm just going to give you kind of an update on next steps. So we submitted our application to the city for rezoning at the beginning of February, and our next step is to go to the NPUV Land Use Committee for a vote, then NPUV for a vote, then also the Pittsburgh Neighborhood Association. That'll be our next meeting on March 1st. And then we'll also be attending the NPUX neighborhood or the NPUX meeting to give this presentation. We also are going to be meeting with Councilmember Lewis. And then in April, we will go to Zoning Review Board. Then, if all goes well, April 28th is the City of Atlanta's Zoning Committee meeting. And then hopefully rezoning at the City Council meeting on May 5th, 2025. Next slide. And so these are our next steps other than entitlement. So we are continuing to do business engagement. We got a list of a couple businesses that folks think that we need to make sure that we're engaging with as we move forward with this site. We are finalizing our planning for the site and our due diligence efforts, finalizing the hydrology study and working on getting some of those recommendations together and meeting with the city to talk to them about that because we do have control over what happens on our site, but not so much on University Avenue. So we want to make sure that we're working really closely with the city to figure out solutions for that. We've got our zoning approval. We had our stakeholder virtual meeting on February 6th, and then today is our larger meeting. And then we hope to issue an RFP after we complete the rezoning in May. Next slide.
All right, now we are back into our virtual meeting Q&A. So we did see a lot of questions come in as the presentation was moving along. And again, we stated in the beginning, those questions will be dismissed. But right now, as I'm going over how you can participate, you can easily copy and paste all of your questions back over and we'll be able to answer them. If you drop them in the chat, I'm going to ask you to copy and paste them from the chat and add them to the Q&A box. Again, we only do this to provide the best listening experience, but also when you're referencing something, we have so many updates. We need to know specifically what you're talking about. And again, it's going to go in order. That's how we do it for the Q&A. All right. So I want to thank all of our participants again today for this wonderful presentation. So as we discussed earlier, questions and comments can be typed or verbally expressed by raising your hand. And again, our audience is made up of Zoom online and phone attendees as well as Facebook Live attendees. So I'm going to go over how you can participate. So for our phone attendees, if you would like to speak, please press *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. And when the discussion begins, a member of our team will open up your line when it is your turn. And your phone will prompt you to press *6 to unmute yourself. If you are that online attendee right now, you can go ahead and submit your questions right now via Zoom in the Q&A box. You can also upvote a response if you have that same question as well. And the raise your hand feature is available for you all Zoom participants. However, I'm going to prioritize those phone attendees. And lastly, if you're participating on Facebook Live, please feel free to participate in the comments section. Someone on our staff will make sure that we see your question. All right, and I'm starting to get those questions in. This first question is from Terica. Are the plans to widen University to account for the increased vehicular traffic from the 600 new units of housing? So I think she's taken that goal that we have.
For our total goal for the entire Beltline tax allocation district is that 5,600. Oh, is that okay? We actually, so we don't have control over University Avenue, but we are going to be working really closely with the city and with Councilmember Lewis to talk about some solutions to address increased vehicular traffic, as well as making sure that we are able to make the site, the area more walkable for pedestrians and safe for bicyclists as well. And then one of the benefits of the plan that you saw is it's kind of, the site is kind of like it's like a giant bowl shaped. So each, there's like a berm on University Avenue and then the part that comes up all the way to the Beltline. And because of the way that we have positioned the buildings and put parking below retail, it means that we will have a lot of opportunities to activate the space both on the Beltline side as well as the University Avenue side. So we are really excited about that.
Okay, and Chelsea, don't go anywhere.
Okay.
This next question is from Matt. He's asking, is this going to follow the model you are now using for Murphy Crossing, or is this the RFP to find a separate developer?
These are totally different projects. So we'll have totally separate RFPs for Murphy Crossing and for this development. Also separate community engagement processes. We did do a RFQ I think in the summer to get a bunch of developers interested pre-qualifying for to work on some of these projects with us. So we have a really good pool of developers that we can pick from, but we'll definitely be opening it up to the larger community as well when we issue those RFPs.
This next question is from Zachary. What level of detail do you intend the master plan to be before releasing the RFP? And that's request for proposals. That's what we state as RFP.
Yeah, so we want to get it pretty detailed, and we are looking into the possibility that we would participate in some of that horizontal work. But obviously, any developer that we're working with is going to make some tweaks, but they would need to follow what we are rezoning the property to. So that means around the same number of units, around the same amount of commercial space, residential space, and industrial space in this case, because it's an IMEX property. So we don't want to see major changes from what we've seen because this is what we've gotten the community interested, engaged in, and it's been vetted by the community. We've met with you guys so many times. So we wouldn't want somebody to come in and do something completely different from what we've worked so hard to create.
And now this next question is going to be from Maggie. What strategies will be used to decrease reliance on cars for the residents? For an example, a MARTA bus stop within the property.
So there's a MARTA bus stop right on University Avenue outside of the property. And also this is gonna back up right to the Beltline. So if we go back to that rendering that shows the Beltline access, I think can you go back a little bit?
Let's go to slide 32 if you can, Brittany. That's a pretty good view right there. Slide 32 if you can. Thank you.
Yeah, so you can kind of see how the site steps up to meet the Beltline. So a lot of people will be, arriving at the site and using using the Beltline as access. We understand that, Atlanta at this point, this is a car-centric area. It's not walking distance to any, MARTA rail station at this point. So we are going to make sure that we are accommodating for parking on site. And then maybe in the future, as there's more, as we create, more of this community, then maybe there is an opportunity to have a MARTA stop within the site. But right now it's right on University outside of the site.
This next question is from Anthony. The time that it's taken to redevelop Murphy Crossing has been incredibly disappointing. What precautions are you trying to avoid the same issue? How is this process going to be different?
Yeah, that's a great question. This has been a completely different process of community engagement and the creation of a master plan than what was done with Murphy Crossing. So we've really worked to hone in on specifics around the master plan, and we can take a lot of those into the RFP. And we also are making sure that from the beginning we know that this will be a multi-phase development. So maybe that'll mean 4 different developers. It could mean one developer doing 2 of the sites. We've also pre-qualified developers that we know are interested in working on this site specifically. And then we are also evaluating our participation in the development of the site, like I said. So working on some of that, making sure that we are involved in a lot of that horizontal work.
This next question is from Anquinetta, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. How will you prevent people from parking in residential areas outside of the plaza? Many homes in the area don't have garages and driveways. Additionally, the street parking is already a bit crowded in some areas.
So each phase of the development, so each of those blocks that you saw, if you could go back to slide 32, I can show a little bit more. Those are all going to have parking, dedicated parking underneath. So they will have parking that will accommodate the residential units in each of those blocks as well as the commercial space.
This next question is from Zachary. Is there a transit connectivity aspect designed into the master plan from both Beltline and street grid?
There is. Gia, do you want to speak more to how you guys have incorporated the street grid and then access to the Beltline as well?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, we're extending Coleman Street into the site, as well as Hubbard Street, because the west side of the site doesn't line up exactly with existing city streets, but we're trying to create a new street coming in as well with those 3 new streets, and we're able to create new blocks by providing another east-west street. And it's unlikely to, because of the topography and how it works, is unlikely we can extend the street all the way to the Beltline. And because we also want to have direct access from the Beltline, more adjacency of pedestrian experience, we do provide a pedestrian pathway along the buildings where there will be, ground floor retails on the Beltline site. And in terms of pedestrian accessibility, the main plaza will be the major access to the Beltline. But as you can see, this pathway along the building close to the Beltline, it actually can connects to the Beltline on the east side at some point. I believe this might be a slightly older version. We actually have a version where this pathway connected directly with the Beltline, and the topo works very well over on the other side. So we have multiple access points, and this plaza between block 1 and 2, they are very spacious and will serve as the main gathering space for the community, as well as the stormwater park. And for the residents, the internal courtyards will provide more like semi-public experience for them. And it will potentially have spaces for small dog park or, outdoor spaces as well. And I remember somebody mentioned bicycle parking. We do have consideration for bicycle parking within each block to provide as much bike racks and facilities as possible. So for people to use not just the cars, but more use the bikes because, the priority adjacent to the Beltline.
This next question is from Rihanna. And I may have you stay on the line. It asks, will there be more crosswalks on University connecting building 4 and 3, kind of like sidewalks? They're building across the street.
So that would be another question. That will be something else that we can work with Councilmember Lewis on. We don't have say over where crosswalks would go across University, but we can definitely lobby for some of those, especially with the increased development to this area.
Thank you, Chelsea. This next question is from Zachary. Can you all provide additional information specifically on the grocery store component? Based on the continued feedback, what scale is most likely?
We don't have any updates on specifics for the grocery store. We are working with Invest Atlanta's grocery store initiative, and they are working with City of Atlanta. They are trying to bring grocery stores to the area. We also have some opportunities through the Beltline Marketplace that Kara talked about. But right now, I think it's more about bringing in the people that would be able to support the grocery store in this area. And then we also have several different kinds of spaces on site that could accommodate different sizes of grocery stores.
And this is a comment from Tyrone. Less of a question, but more of a statement. If this development is going to include the larger neighborhood, We have to work with City Council to reduce car speeds on University and Hubbard. Speed calming and possibly a diet instead of a widening. Cars fly through the intersection and run reds on the regular. This will become a big risk. Okay. He's referring to University and McDaniel. Thank you, Tyrone. He was saying that cars fly through the intersection and run reds on the regular. This will become a big risk for pedestrians with increased population and car volume.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Tyrone. We definitely are concerned about this and want to make sure that we are addressing it with Councilmember Lewis as we move forward with plans for the site.
This next question is from Anthony. There have been plans to redevelop the adjacent property to the west that Joel Dixon at Urban Oasis Development was involved with. Are you actively involving them in the plans to ensure proper street grid connections and seamless transitions between both properties?
Yes, we have met with them several times and we can share updated information with them. I think they're a little bit further behind on their plans for the site than we are with the site, but we'll definitely take that into account.
This next question is from Shatira. I don't know if we'll be able to answer this question because it's referring to the roadway study, but I'm going to read it out loud. I joined late, so this may have been asked. What is the status of the University Avenue roadway study? The highway exit is currently very dangerous and increased traffic to the area and is going to increase potential accidents. I know this would not be in our area. This will be really the Atlanta Department of Transportation, but you also can reach out to Councilmember Lewis as well to let him know. But since you've went ahead and asked this question, we'll probably have someone from our government affairs. Bryson will probably pass this comment along, asking about this update. So he hopefully can reach out to you all about it. This next question is from Maggie. Will there be any policies around what businesses fill the ground floors of these buildings, locally owned, variety of business types, etc., to make them the most useful to the neighborhood?
Yes, we are thinking a lot about that as we craft our RFP for the site. So thinking about what businesses are needed in the neighborhood, making sure that we're prioritizing locally owned businesses. Also making sure that we're working with our economic development department with their Beltline marketplace program. And they also have a business incubator program. Really thinking about the types of businesses that fit into the IMEX zoning as well. That would be really useful to have at this site. But definitely want to hear more from you guys about what, so we heard, I think somebody mentioned healthcare. Definitely we've heard that there's a need for a gym in this area. So
The banking
yeah, please,
institution.
banking
Yeah, we've been hearing,
institution.
yeah.
We know that I think at a previous meeting, someone mentioned we really needed a hardware store at the site. So really thinking about all of those types of businesses that would be needed in the area as we put together the RFP.
So yes, any suggestions, please email us at engage@atlbeltline.org. Or of course, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to share our contact information. You can also reach out to us as well when it comes to that. But it's currently, at this time, I see no more questions in the Q&A. I'm going to say you all had some great questions this evening, and we appreciate them as much as possible. So please let us know if there's any other lingering questions. And of course, if you don't have any questions or if someone missed the meeting or you joined on late, I do want to let you know a copy of this presentation will be made available online within 48 hours. But also this is a live recording on Facebook Live. So you can always revisit our Facebook page or our YouTube page, and these presentations and this video will be posted. Okay, we got a good comment from Rihanna. I see a lot of good progress on feedback based on the last meetings I've been to. Thank you. Again, we're trying to make this process as seamless as possible, and we can't do it without you all. So again, you all as a neighborhood have been speaking up, and we've been listening, and we appreciate it. All right, so at this moment in time, let's go ahead and move to our final polling questions. But again, I'll take as many as I can when it comes to questions, but limited. So again, if you have any other lingering questions, email us at engage@atlbeltline.org. But for right now, this next question, was the information presented tonight helpful? Yes, no, or no opinion? And as we answer that polling question, and let me know if that's not working. Ebony, you could just come off mute and just let me know if it's still not working for you as well. Again, we do apologize for all the technical difficulties we've been having tonight.
They are not working.
Okay. So at this moment in time, I am going to assume that you all felt that this information was presented tonight helpful. But again, if you did not, you can always email us and let us know. Zachary, you did have a question. Will there be any more additional stakeholder meetings before the RFP? There should be one more session, but Chelsea, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so we definitely will be bringing the stakeholders and coming back to a public meeting once we have completed crafting the RFP to get your feedback on the draft before we publish it.
And then this next final polling question we always ask, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, did you learn something new? I feel like we did have some new people, some new names I've seen in the Q&A box, and some new attendees that I've seen. So I do assume that you all did learn something new, but if you have not, please let us know again at engage@atlbeltline.org. But let's go on to this final slide. Again, you can screenshot this, take a picture of it. This is just listing all of our contact information. Our main project managers is Dennis Richards and of course, Chelsea Arkin, who spoke with you all tonight. And then I am Rashida Williamson, your community engagement manager. So if you have questions, please let us know. And then we also have Natalie Jones, and that's with the Business Solutions Office. Reach out to her about any economic development progress along the trail as well. I do want to thank you all for a great night. We do apologize for all the technical difficulties. Again, we do apologize. We will be reaching out to Zoom. But for tonight, I want to say thank you, and we will see you all on the Beltline. Have a great evening.